So WWE was reaching its peak, and this game may have captured this moment in time. WrestleMania 2000 was the first game on the N64 developed by the Aki Corporation. That may not make a lot of sense if you're not privy to some of the wrestling game's history, but don't you worry, I am here to try and explain this game's history, and even though its sequel No Mercy exists, you may not want to sleep on WrestleMania 2000. If you like this sort of video and want to see more video game reviews just like this one, then please consider subscribing. I also tend to get some little details wrong, so feel free to correct me in the comments and keep me right. Okay, so here's a crash course in the history for this game. Aki Corp were the developers of some of the best early wrestling games that you may or may not know. Starting with Virtual Pro Wrestling in 1996, they would strike up a deal to release WCW games in the following years. This would lead to the release of WCW NWO World Tour and WCW NWO Revenge, which are two of the most renowned wrestling games that fans still talk about even today. Over on the WWF side of things, WWE is working with THQ to publish wrestling games for their brand, which is not going particularly well. THQ is working with Acclaim to release the WWF Warzone and Attitude games for the PlayStation with ports to the N64, but those games are rough and they deserve full reviews on their own merit. After the release of WCW NWO Revenge, THQ would take the WWF license away from Acclaim and offer it to the Aki Corp. This would irk WCW, who apparently refused to work with Aki on future titles and would then switch to Electronic Arts, which also didn't go particularly well for them either. So the year is 2000, and this is a pivotal year for the WWF. Firmly defeating the WCW in the ratings every single week due to just stronger booking with the McMahon-Helmsley storyline and the influx of young talent like Chris Jericho, Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit, alongside the cultivation of household names like The Rock, Stone Cold and Triple H. This would allow WrestleMania 2000 to shine on the N64, so let's dive in to see how this game actually plays. If you have played Virtual Pro Wrestling and you think you know how this game plays, but it's actually surprisingly different. The N64 controller has a bit of an odd layout, so bear with me. The A button is used for grapples. Tapping the button will trigger a weak grapple and holding the button will initiate a stronger grapple. This is the same for the B button, which controls your striking attacks. The C buttons will control different actions too. C up will allow you to leave the ring, C down will allow you to run or climb the ropes, C left will rotate your opponent when they are lying on the ring mat, and C right will change the opponent that you are targeting. The D-pad on the left is used to control the movement of your chosen character, with the thumbstick in the middle being used to trigger taunt. When your attitude meter is full, you can taunt to enter a special state, and this will allow you to hit as many finishers as you want within that certain time frame. There are also two buttons on the top of the controller. Left is used to reverse grapples and the right is used to reverse strikes. I feel like that only scratches the surface of these controls. There are so many situations where you can initiate unique grapples and attacks that are not featured in the mainline PlayStation series for several years after WrestleMania 2000. There's a reason that so many people still talk about No Mercy, and much like No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000 is a dream to play. I grew up playing the SmackDown series, so I've always struggled to get used to what the N64 controllers are. And when people would argue with me about the N64 games having better controls than the PS1 games, I would immediately disregard them because nothing could be better than those early SmackDown games. But really, they are both great in their own right. The controls for WrestleMania are fairly simple to pick up and play, and really that's the main thing when you want to have friends over and want to get some matches on the go. So WrestleMania 2000 takes what made the WCW NWO games so great and ramps it up even further. Even though the WCW games were already really fun, WrestleMania adds the option of having triple threat or fatal 4-way matches, allowing for more exciting multi-person matches up to 4 players. Although WCW did allow for a multi-person battle royal, WrestleMania 2000 is the official debut of the Royal Rumble, and it's fully featured here, but it does only support 4 players in the ring at any given time, and perhaps as a minor nitpick, it could be quite easy to eliminate other players and likewise to be eliminated. But hey, That's the real danger of the Royal Rumble. Eliminations can happen at any time. The last main improvement to the game is no doubt the inclusion of a cage match. Unlike the Acclaim games that did feature a cage, the WrestleMania implements the cage in a much better way, keeping the ropes on the ring and allowing for some really fun gameplay options during the match. Although it is ridiculously tall, I don't know what's up with how tall the cage is. If you're only familiar with No Mercy, then you may not expect the main story mode in WrestleMania 2000 to be as different as it is. See, WrestleMania 2000 features the Road to WrestleMania. Yes, they used that naming convention long before the SmackDown vs. Raw series did. Unlike the SmackDown vs. Raw series, the Road to WrestleMania takes your character through matches on a calendar-based story mode, sprinkled with some cutscenes, but not very many of them. You will work through many Raw, SmackDown, and Heat events, culminating in your usual events like the Royal Rumble, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, and of course, WrestleMania. This is really how you unlock new hidden superstars to use in the game modes, and the matches that it generates are okay, but nothing really mind-blowing. I really do like the stat tracking that comes with the mode though, so you can see how good or bad your character is doing through the story as you attempt to win matches and win some championship gold. However, let's be unfair for a second. This game is now 26 years old and released on the N64, but look, the graphics just aren't great. I would argue even for the time that the game came out, the graphics weren't that great. It's maybe an unfair comparison, but what Yuke's did with the SmackDown series I think blows WrestleMania and No Mercy out of the water. I look at the N64 games like having this almost chibi art style, and in that case it does look okay. But if you look at the characters' body proportions, pretty much everyone has the same body shape, which is a little odd when facing stars like The Undertaker, Kane, or The Big Show. And turning our attention to the face textures, I mean, they're okay, you can at least kind of tell who they are, but it's definitely not photorealistic, and maybe it's not supposed to be. One thing that I absolutely cannot critique here is the entrance animations. Even though they are keyframed animations, which essentially means that it's entirely hand animated, they look fantastic, and due to the heavy compression on the N64 cartridge, things like the entrance music or Titantrons have been heavily compressed and cut down, so the music isn't as clear as you may like, and the Titantrons do kind of play like a PowerPoint presentation, but this doesn't hurt the experience in my books. I still think these entrances look cool as hell. I couldn't find a natural place to add this to the review, but the move animations are also so impressive. Again, even with all of these moves being hand animated, they just have the perfect amount of weight and they look so damaging. I even argued to some extent that some of these moves look more brutal than even more of the modern motion captured animations. Even though the game came out in late 1999, there are many memorable arenas that didn't make the game. However, the only arenas available in WrestleMania are the weekly shows, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, King of the Ring, and of course WrestleMania. Which means that shows like Fully Loaded, Backlash, St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and even Survivor Series didn't make the cut, which is a little odd. This would then lead to IGN giving the game an 8.9 out of 10 after heavily comparing the game to the Acclaim PS1 offerings. They came to the conclusion that WrestleMania was far beyond anything that the Acclaim games were offering, and they'd be completely right to say that. GameSpot would likewise give the game a 7.1 out of 10, praising much of the gameplay improvements that the game would make, but actually critiqued the game for being too simple and the game engine feeling dated, which is actually really funny considering that No Mercy would follow this game and probably has a better review. I have noticed a trend online of more and more people going back to this game to experience this for the first time. Since seemingly everyone has already played No Mercy, many are shocked to learn that there is in fact another N64 Aki wrestling game that is maybe just as good as No Mercy. And much like myself, they are going back to see how the game compares to No Mercy and exploring maybe why it was so forgotten. I would say that WrestleMania 2000 is often forgotten mostly due to the fact that No Mercy would release the next year and would end up being the standard bearer for many wrestling game fans. Considering the fact that No Mercy and WrestleMania are so similar, and most people do immediately write off WrestleMania due to the fact that, well, everyone had already played No Mercy and that's the best game ever made. Either way, they are both very similar, and really you can jump into either one of them and have a great time in single or local multiplayer. But I would like to know what you think of the game in the comments down below. I really enjoyed my trip to WrestleMania 2000. I probably should have emphasized this more during the review, but this was actually my first time ever playing this game, and I always grew up playing the PlayStation 1 games, so going back to experience WrestleMania is a totally different experience. I really like the grappling system, and the selling animations are even better than some of the stuff that you even see nowadays. And with this game representing one of my favorite years in WWE history, it's almost the perfect game for me at that time, and I'm almost gutted that I missed it at that time. But I'm still very appreciative that due to this channel, I was able to go back and experience this now. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your memories of WrestleMania down in the comments, and subscribe for more wrestling game reviews and gameplay. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye for now.